Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Big Me Kickoff. I am your host, Kevin Noon. It is Tuesday, January 11th. It's been a minute since we've done a Big Me Kickoff. I've been on everybody else's show, have not had time to do my own. I'm sure you've seen me on the Gibbs and the Bank show when we were in San Antonio. I'm sure you've seen me on Morning Scoop, Buckeye Weekly. I hit those shows before I hit my own, so I kind of broke my own promise of trying to do the show a little bit more often, but we're home, we're back, we're off the road. So we're going to get back to it. Maybe we'll even have enough stuff to talk about to be able to do this more than twice a week, but we'll see. Yesterday was the college football championship game for Alabama and Georgia. In case you live in a cave or just didn't watch the game, I know a lot of people who skipped it. Georgia wins 33-18, putting up 20 points in the fourth quarter to take it from Alabama. Stetson Bennett, 17-26, 224, 2 touchdowns. Zamir White rushed for 84 yards and a score for Georgia. On the other side, Bryce Young, 35 of 57 for 369, a touchdown and 2 big picks. Jameson Williams only had 4 catches for 65 yards. He ends up getting knocked out of the game, and with the loss of Jameson Williams, that was kind of the loss of the Alabama offense, as the rushing would only account for 30 yards on 28 carries. That is a 1.1 yard average. Now, Alabama is not the best running team this year. Georgia is one of the best teams at stopping the run, but that Alabama offense was all out of sorts. And even with that being said, it really looked like Alabama had a chance to win it. Alabama was up 18-13 with about 10 minutes left in the fourth quarter. And then Georgia goes on to score 3 touchdowns down the stretch. They do miss on a 2-point try at the 8-minute mark, but then a Bowers touchdown reception from Bennett, and then a Keely Ringo 79-yard interception return sealed the deal. Despite Kirby Smart's best efforts to get Keely Ringo to hit the ground, Bama didn't have the timeouts necessarily to really prolong the game and end it there. But with less than a minute left, it did not end up costing Georgia, who now snaps its streak of its national championship drought. 1980 was the last year that the Bulldogs won it all. 1980 jokes out the door. I'm going to have to find some new material. I always enjoy my material of talking about Michigan's half championship in 97. So we have to go back to 48 for Michigan's last national championship. That was a full national championship. I'm sure I'm going to draw the ire of a couple people, but I really don't care. I don't care. Did you watch the game? Did you watch the game last night? I did, because I was expected to. I did because I don't really care about the NFL that much this year. I did because I love college football. Don't love seeing an SEC versus SEC rematch. The amount of pawing and fawning over the SEC on the telecast became a little much for me before the game started. Turned on the pregame, started hearing the laughing and the backslapping about the conference, so on and so forth. And I didn't turn the game back on until the anthem. I was watching, Good Eats, Chopped, Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives. I certainly was watching one of the food networks and not the pregame. But there you have it. 33-18, Georgia's your national champion. Alabama comes up a little short. Would this have been the end of Nick Saban's run if Alabama would have won it all? If they would have won another title, would he have said, I'm good? I'd tell you what's not going to happen. He's not going to retire now coming off a loss. I mean, he could lose the next 50 games and his legacy is still going to be fantastic. But I just can't see Nick Saban saying, well, we had a good run. And I know that the conversation about Nick Saban retiring is kind of taboo, and nobody's really expecting it. I'm not trying to push a narrative that doesn't exist. That's not the talk. But then again, it is the talk, because everybody sees Alabama in the championship game every year, or it feels like every year. And the assumption is, as long as Nick Saban's there, they're going to keep doing it. And then once somebody else gets in, all bets are off. You just don't know. Dabo Swinney, an Alabama alum, was supposed to be kind of the heir apparent. Don't know if that's the case anymore. don't know who would go there. But, I was reading on social media, which I do way too much, and one Alabama fan said to another Alabama fan, this isn't a joke. This isn't like a horse walked into the bar with the Pope. One Alabama fan said to another one, well, where are we going next year? Oh, L.A. That'll be much better than this one, Indianapolis. Do you bet against these fans in this belief that they're just going every year? History says that that's pretty consistent. They do go almost every year. And this was not a great Bama team by Bama standards. I'm not taking anything away from this Alabama team and saying, wow, they didn't deserve to be there. But if Auburn executed properly, if a couple of other things happened, Alabama wouldn't have even been in the college football playoff. And this isn't a remove Alabama and insert Ohio State. Ohio State had its own issues. And it was called the defense. So I'm not stumping for Ohio State having been in the playoff. I'm just saying this was not one of Alabama's better teams. As I said, Jameson Williams gets hurt. Prayers up for him. Knee injury. Hopefully it's not something long-term like an ACL. I just don't know. He was out there walking around, but I've seen guys play on a bad ACL for a little bit, so you just don't know. Once that happened, that offense became really, really one-dimensional. And that dimension wasn't even great. Tight end Cameron Latou, he had 102 yards on 5 receptions. He was kind of a big weapon there. He had a touchdown. Of course, we like to talk about Slade Bolden as well. He had 7 receptions for 44 yards. But you're also looking at a game that neither team had 400 yards of total offense. Alabama outgained Georgia 399 to 364. Once again, proving that total yards doesn't mean a damn thing. We don't measure this game in yardage. We measure this game in points. Georgia had 33. Alabama had 18. As I'm kind of going through here, Georgia was terrible on third down, 4 of 12. Alabama was closer to 50%, 9 of 20. You go to red zone. They were perfect there, 4 of 4 for Bama, 3 of 3 for Georgia in terms of getting points. Time of possession right down the middle. Bama had one more turnover, which proved to be critical because one of those turnovers was 7 points. Not that I really had a lot of faith in Alabama marching down the field at the end, because with no Jameson Williams, and they didn't have John Mechie, who got hurt weeks ago, it was not a great situation. Now, I'm in before people start saying, well, Kevin, all right, enough. We're not watching an Alabama show. I don't care what you have to say about Alabama. But it does bring me into the top 6. And I say the top 6 of the AP because Ohio State finished 6th. And again, let's make this an Ohio State show. So you got Georgia 1, Bama 2, Michigan 3, Cincinnati 4. Those are your college football playoff finalists. It takes a lot for somebody in the CFP to fall out of the top 4. Even if you go and you get slapped, you generally slide in there at 4 and are separated from the rest of the lot. Then you have Bama 5 or Baylor 5, Ohio State 6. And they were separated by 12 points. And I saw great debate in terms of where everybody should be ranked on College Poll Tracker in the rankings. And Ohio State was voted as high as 3rd, but that was kind of an outlier. And then you had a lot of people that voted them 7th, had Oklahoma State ahead of Ohio State. Okay, I get it. Once again, everybody loves Notre Dame. Everybody loves the Fighting Irish, even though Notre Dame, and we're going to talk about this in a minute, woefully underperforms in the postseason. Woefully. But Notre Dame is a bigger name than Utah. Oklahoma State won its game in a little bit more of a convincing fashion than Ohio State did against Utah. Oklahoma State didn't give up 11 million points, didn't give up a lot of yardage. Ohio State certainly had its defensive issues until it didn't. And even then, a backup quarterback comes in, throws a touchdown to make it 45-all, and Ohio State has to kick a field goal with less than 15 seconds left to win it. So, I don't know. It doesn't really matter at the end of the day, but what I do like is I did a search on Tuesday morning for my story for Buckeye Scoop. And it's called Buckeyes Finish Number 6 in AP Poll, a deep dive. a love story, if you will. I went back 22 years. Why 22? 2000. I could have made it 20 years and really shaped the numbers tighter for Ohio State. But that's dishonest. We see that 87% of all facts are made up at the spur of the moment to suit the arguer's point. I said, I'm going to do this to 2000. I'm not going to change it. Yes, I was very much alive and around for 2001, 2000. Ohio State didn't finish ranked either of those years. But of those 22 seasons, Ohio State has finished ranked in the final AP poll 19 times. 86.4% of all final top 25 AP polls, Ohio State has been in the top 25. Only trailing Oklahoma, who's done it 20 times, 90%. Alabama and Clemson have done it 16 times. Georgia's done it 15 times, along with Oregon. Michigan's done it 14 times. Notre Dame's done it 12 times. I only focused on these 8 teams because these are, the blue bloods, the teams that are supposed to kind of be there every year, whatever. Yes, I missed some national champions by not including LSU, who's had a couple of championships along the way. I could have really done some stuff there, but do the numbers get lost if I get to 8, 10, 12, 15, 20 teams? I mean, 8 was a good enough number. So Ohio State's been there 19 times. But what's the difference between 25 and 10? I mean, there were 4 teams in this year's top 25 final poll that had 4 losses. You're not going to have 4 losses and be in the top 10. Generally 2 losses or whatever. So what's the difference between 25 and 10? Potentially 2 wins, 2 losses. So the top 10 means a little bit more. So now for Ohio State is at the top of the food chain there. 17 times out of the last 22 years, Ohio State has finished as a top 10 team nationally in the final AP poll. 77.3%. Oklahoma, who has one more appearance in the top 25, is at 16. Alabama's at 15. Alabama's also won 6 natties during that time, so we'll hold on. We'll finish out the numbers. Georgia was 11. Oregon was 9. Clemson was 7. Michigan and Notre Dame were 5. Good for 22.7%. So less than 1 in 4 times that, over 22 years, they've finished as a top 10 team. Let's move it up to the top 5. Ohio State still in the top spot, and by a significant margin here, 14 times. That's 63.6%. Ohio State finished 6th this year by 12 points. If Ohio State would have hit that, that would have been 15 times in 22 years. Now, what's the difference between 5 and 6? Nothing. If you're not first, you're last, or something that Ricky Bobby's dad said. I don't know. Whatever. I think it shows it just shows consistency over the last 22 years. Alabama's finished 10 times over 22 years. Granted, 6 times they finished first. Oklahoma 9, Oregon 6, Clemson 6, Georgia 5, Notre Dame 3, Michigan 1. 1 top 5 finish in the final AP poll since through 2000. And that was this year. This year, finished 3rd. Because they didn't make it to the championship game. Finished ahead of Cincinnati. Georgia, Alabama, Michigan, Cincinnati. So 1 top 5 finish. And then, of course, we go over the national champions. And in here, I'm only using these 8 teams. I know LSU has a couple. We're missing some on here. Bama with 6. Ohio State and Clemson with 2. Georgia with 1. Oklahoma with 1. Don't forget the 2000 championship. Michigan, Oregon, Notre Dame, 0. So, I kind of go through this. And you look at Michigan and you look at Notre Dame, and they kind of have some similar numbers there. Which team's kind of been the bigger disappointment? And honestly, I kind of say Notre Dame. And here's why. In this time frame that we're looking at, Michigan still had Lloyd Carr. And Lloyd Carr was not over the hill in terms of his career. Michigan still made a couple of Rose Bowls, and I think it was 03 and 04. And then, but then Michigan goes into the Rich Rod years and the Brady Hoke years, and even early Jim Harbaugh. I mean, let's not pretend for a second that suddenly everything's hunky-dory up in Ann Arbor. First of all, they're concerned they're going to lose them to the NFL. Regardless of that happening one way or the other, this was the year they finally broke through and were able to achieve a lot of goals that have been off the table for years and years and years. But you look at Notre Dame on the other side. And coaching, at least at those moments, wasn't the biggest concern. Yes, you have the end of the Bob Davie era, which was not fantastic. But then you have Ty Willingham, which was supposed to be this tremendous hire until it wasn't. Then you have Charlie Weiss and his decided tactical advantage, which was a good hire until it wasn't. And then you have Brian Kelly. And I'm not even going to count that, yes, Marcus Freeman coached one game. He coached the bowl game for them. But that we're not in the Marcus Freeman era yet. But you sit there and you look at a team that seemingly on the surface made better coaching hires and still had really bleh results. 3 top 5 finishes over those 22 years. 13.6% of the time, Notre Dame finished in the top 5. I did not go through to look at the preseason poll to see how many times that Notre Dame was ranked, but I'm assuming out of 22 times, the answer was 409. There's not a team out there nationally that is more overranked, more overvalued to start the season than Notre Dame. So I'm assuming they made it about 409 times. I'm kind of jotting down some times to make it easier for me to write this at the end. Who makes the college football playoff in 2023 for the 2022 season? And I could be painting myself in a corner. Lord knows. I mean, we had championship games on New Year's Eve this year. Well, I've seen them even earlier. Hopefully the schedule works out to where the games actually take place, the semis take place in 23. We know that expansion talk is hitting a brick wall. And of course, our favorite commissioner, yours and mine, Kevin Warren, seems to be somebody who is a bit of a brick wall right now in terms of what the structure is. You have the Pac-12 commissioner coming out and saying, look, we love all of these ideas. It just really seems like a total mess. I'm not sure what I think about expansion. I wasn't a big playoff proponent, and I'm certainly not a big expansion proponent. I don't know. But for now, let's just have the assumption that there are going to be 4 teams. I've got Alabama. I've got Ohio State. I have a second SEC team. Not the reigning national champions, though. I don't see Georgia making it. I'm going to put Texas A&M. And I understand that A&M and Bama are in the same division. So there's no way that these two teams can meet in Atlanta at the championship game. I get that. I totally understand that. But I think Georgia's going to take a little bit of a step back. I think you're going to see a mass exodus. We've achieved our goal. Mission accomplished. All of that good stuff. So Georgia recruits very, very well. There's no question about it. So it's not that they're not going to have the guys, but I think that they're going to, I think that they're going to become much more of the hunted. I think that they're going to miss some key guys. I certainly don't think that Stetson Bennett. This is going to be such an unpopular opinion. I don't care. I'm not a huge Stetson Bennett believer. Yes, they won. Yes, I get that. Yes, Stetson Bennett did throw for 2 touchdowns and 224 yards against Alabama's defense. Had a completion percentage of about 65%. I mean, a rating of 163. Okay. I still think JT Daniels was better. That's not me saying, boo, boo, I don't like Stetson Bennett, he's terrible. No, it's somebody's son. I'm not going to do that. But I am going to say I don't believe that he's... I don't put him in the same caliber as I do some other... He's no Vince Young. How about that? He's no Vince Young. So, I think A&M is going to buy their way to a championship, or at least a championship run. And I think it's going to take a little bit of time for this class and NIL to really get it there. But they're not messing around. They're Texas on steroids right now in terms of the machine. And who is my 4th team? I don't know if I like anybody from the Pac-12. I don't know if I like anybody from the ACC. Here's a dark horse for you. I really like Dave Aranda. I really like Dave Aranda and what he's doing at Baylor. How about some Baylor Bears? I think the Bears I think they're going to surprise some people. Now, everybody's got to, it's January. We're all going to throw these wild dark horses out there and then act like we never said it in 6 months, 8 months. Oh, I don't know what you're talking about. I never said that. That's ridiculous. Don't be stupid. But that's my 4. That's my 4. Not in order. I don't know how that's going to all work out. Certainly not betting on Notre Dame. Fool me once, fool me twice. No. I've never been fooled by Notre Dame. I mean, basically, almost everybody's watching the show is hoping Notre Dame starts the year 0-1. So that doesn't help Notre Dame's cause. So, we'll see. We're about 20 minutes in. I got 2 more things I want to talk about. Ohio State's made a couple of coaching changes. There's been a lot of great content over at Buckeye Scoop about this, so I'm not going to get into it that much. Jim Knowles is in. We've known about that one for a while. He officially started January 2nd, got into town to really get to work a couple days after. Justin Fry has just been named the new offensive line coach, associate head coach. I don't know. There's a lot of other titles that don't get caught up in the org chart. Well, what does this mean? How are things going to be different? Well, how it's going to be different is Matt Barnes and Greg Stewart are not going to be coaching at Ohio State while Jim Knowles and Justin Fry are. The hope is that both of these guys are going to be able to get Ohio State further in their respective spots. Ohio State was not having a hard time developing a lot of offensive linemen, but Ohio State was having a hard time attracting a lot of offensive linemen. Yes, you get Paris Johnson. Yes, you get Donovan Jackson. Yes, you get Tager Shabola, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You get some highly ranked guys, but then you miss out on Ernest Green, who I had in the class for the longest time. Ohio State and St. John Bosco have always had a good relationship, and Ohio State certainly doesn't land everybody from Bosco. But just with Green's relationship with Wyatt Davis and everything, Ohio State was a hat on the table, but really wasn't even a hat on the table. That's unforgivable. I don't care about going back to Jackson Carman, but how about Blake Miller going to Clemson and losing another lineman to Clemson? And yes, but Kevin, Greg Stewart, he was going through back surgery and everything. I get it. I've had back surgery. It sucks. It's horrible. And then having a job that has a lot of physical demands in terms of getting out there and recruiting and going through practice. No, he's not going through drills, but we watched what happened to Thad Matta. Thad Matta and the drop foot issue and everything else, he just wasn't the same guy in terms of what he could do. And it has to eat at you. So, I wish both Matt Barnes and Greg Stewart the best of luck in their next chapter. This is not a situation of, oh, you hosed the Buckeyes with your inability, so phooey on you. No, that's not what it is. But I think Ohio State has gone out and made a couple of great hires. I think Jim Knowles is like a 10-star hire. And I don't know a ton about Justin Fry, but everything I've heard has been positive. There's some concerns about what happens in terms of recruiting. Did he necessarily light it on fire at UCLA or various stops? Well, he wasn't walking into places wearing an Ohio State Block O. And that's going to open some doors. So, we'll see. I remember when Ohio State went out and got Alex Grinch. And Alex Grinch, he's this great recruiter. He was a great recruiter by Washington State standards. I don't know if he was a great recruiter at Ohio State. I don't know if he was a great coach at Ohio State. We'll see if he's going to be a great DC at SC following Lincoln Riley over there. But I think that Ohio State, in terms of its last 2 recruiters, and I'm not speaking ill of the recently departed, but Greg Stewart and then before that Ed Warner, neither of those guys were strongly based in recruiting. They were much better in terms of development of players. And Justin Fry's got that on lockdown too. So, I think that if Justin Fry comes in and is a 6 in terms of recruiting, he's going to be like a 30 compared to where they were, because kids did not immediately gravitate to Stud or Warner. Then they got to know him and they were fiercely loyal of both those coaches. But I can't tell you the number of times over the course of both coaches that I've had offensive line recruits say, yeah, I don't really get to spend a lot of time with him. I haven't talked to him in a couple months. No, I talked to Kennedy Cook. No, I talked to Kevin Wilson. No, I talked to whoever. So we'll see. Last thing I want to touch upon here at the about 25-minute mark is we're going to get some news tomorrow, as in Wednesday. Now, if you're listening to this on Wednesday, as in today, and if you're listening to this on Thursday, back in ancient history, about some changes to the upcoming Big Ten football schedule. And allegedly, they're going to take into account some of the changes, some things that happened from 2020. The biggest thing that I've heard is there's a rumor that Ohio State may play Penn State on October 29th, changing some dates up. I don't know all the particulars. I haven't seen anything. Well, I don't have a pre-release, so I'm not speaking from a position of knowing and just mind messing with you, going like, oh, I don't know what it's going to be. I don't know what it's going to be. This isn't going to be they're going to do something on BTN about it, which means this isn't going to be one game. Okay, we're moving the Penn State, Ohio State game around, and then the subsequent games that ripple from there. It's going to be layers here. So I don't know if I'm expecting a ton of changes, but that seems to be one that's gathered some steam. So good news is it kind of breaks up from where it was. Bad news is, that games in State College is going to be a whiteout. If it's October 29th, they're all going to be there in their Teletubby uniforms and all this other crap because it's Halloween. But Ohio State's gone in there and won in those situations. Ohio State's gone in there and lost. But I've said it time and time again. Ohio State does very well in State College in the whiteout. Ohio State has a fantastic record there. We remember the losses because that's what we're conditioned to do. A win just moves you forward in your journey. A loss can be a brick wall. So, we'll see. If there's enough that happens, maybe we'll do an emergency podcast tomorrow, Wednesday, or today if you're listening on Wednesday. We'll see. But it's kind of what's going on right now. It's been really great to reconnect with you all. Maybe I'll do a live show this week. Maybe I'll do a live show on Friday. We'll see. It's been a while since I've talked to y'all. But once again, I'm Kevin Noon for the Big Me Kickoff. I really appreciate you all talking to me here on the show. Be sure to subscribe. Be sure to hit the bell. Be sure to leave a comment. If you're listening on any of the podcast outlets, be sure to leave a 5-star review. That helps more people find our content, and it would mean a ton to me. But until the next time, we'll talk to you soon.